Welcome to another episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, and I'm excited, man. Like, we're inching towards the San Francisco 49ers and Pittsburgh Steelers kickoff. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the building. We got the 49ers Gold Rush stuff with my guy, John Chapman. I'm going to be there live and direct as well. Today, we got a special episode, and I know we didn't go at our normal time this morning. I was trying to find a Pittsburgh Steelers person, but we got two people. All right, Melissa and Jared Bailey joining us today. Good evening to everybody. I hope everybody's doing very well. Make sure, if you haven't already, you guys
like and subscribe this video.
All right. We got people in the chat. I saw Eduardo. He says, when is Croc? I'll put it on the screen here. When is Croc gonna go back to not doing the show from the kitchen table? Man, still grounded. So I moved. Man, listen, I had this big house in Arkansas. I had hella space, hella rooms. I had my own office. I had my own little area. All right, and I moved back to Stockton. Seriously downsized. I mean, I'm talking about going from 3,500 square feet to like 1,100 square feet or whatever this is. So I ain't got the space, man. Eventually, I will have the space. Eventually, I'll have the space, and I'll be back to not having my daughter behind me when I'm recording the podcast. You want to say hi?
Hi.
There you go. All right, my daughter Sugar Shane right there. All right, so you're gonna have to put up with the kitchen in the background for a little bit, man. All right, so you know what I'm saying, chill out, man. Stall me out for just a little bit. All right, anyways, y'all didn't come on here to hear me ramble about this, that, and the other. Y'all came on here to talk about Brock Purdy versus Kenny Pickett. And I thought there would be no better people to help me discuss this than my guy, Jared Bailey. Jared, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, mate. It's good to see you again. Haven't actually talked to you face to face since January when we were in Mobile. But
we were in Mobile. We stayed together at the for the Senior Bowl.
We did. So I think it's been since then since I've actually interacted with you face to face, not just typing over the app formerly known as Twitter. But it's good to see you, bro. How are you?
It's good to see you too. And you're not the only guest today. All right. We also have Melissa. I'm going to give Melissa the applause. I actually meant to give Jared the applause as well, but I didn't get to it quick enough. So you get the matter of fact, there we go. We just got two of them, one for each of y'all. There we go. We are I can't believe we're here. And this offseason has been crazy, especially for the 49ers. I don't know if y'all have paid attention to 49ers Twitter, but it's kind of been a lot of chaos going on. You know, you had the whole Trey Lance, Sam Darnold thing, and Brock Purdy, and you had the elbow thing. And throughout all of that, there's a game that's about to happen. And a few months ago, the schedule release happened. And when y'all saw week 1 in Pittsburgh, you have the San Francisco 49ers coming to town. Jared, or we'll go Melissa, because ladies first. Melissa, what were your initial thoughts when you said, those 49ers, week 1?
Well, I thought that was by far the hardest game on the schedule. And I didn't want to face them week 1, but I thought, okay, well, I definitely don't want to face them later on in the season with fatigue, attrition, all of that stuff. So I was like, okay, week 1, usually the Steelers, Tomlin, he has them ready for our week 1 games. We beat the Bills. We beat Cincy away both those years. And so I was like, you know what, he'll have them ready. We finally get a home game. We haven't had a home game in 8-9 years. So it's like, let's do this. You know, we're going to win. But I just knew I don't want to play Brock Purdy and I don't want to play against CMC, Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to deal with it. But I also am stoked because a lot of my friends are Niners fans. So I'm like, let's do this.
All right. And Jared, your thoughts when you saw, man, week 1, San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest game on the schedule, especially, outside of anything divisional. And yeah, Melissa touched on it. It's the first home game to open up the season for the Steelers since 2014. So it's been a minute since they opened up the season at home. In terms of San Francisco, the last 2 years, the Steelers have opened up against Buffalo, Cincinnati, both games that they were kind of written off of winning and somehow won both games. So in terms of the 49ers, coming in, Brock was absent most of the offseason because of the elbow. We saw a little bit of him in the preseason. I'm not one who's horrified of Brock Purdy. I think he's fine. He doesn't move the needle for me or anything. I don't think he's horrible, but I don't think I think fans are more scared of, okay, what's Kyle Shanahan going to draw up? I don't think there's any defensive coordinator laying in bed at night. But like, how the hell am I going to stop Brock Purdy? I think it's more of like, okay, what's Kyle Shanahan going to draw up? How is he going to scheme around the things that we do best? And how are we going to counterpunch whatever they punch with on offense? So two really good units. I mean, the Steelers have 3 All-Pros on the defensive side of the ball, and they got better on that side of the ball. And obviously, the 49ers offense needs no introduction. We know how good they are. But yeah, I think really evenly matched teams, and it's going to be really fun. So I'm very much looking forward to the season kicking off. I'm excited that it's in Pittsburgh. But yeah, I'm glad that they're getting this out of the way week 1 rather than it coming, like week 9 or something.
Yeah.
So we have a question here from this chat. Shout out to Charlene Crossley in here, and it says, ask them how they survived the TJ Watt holdout last season. And if you don't know, or anybody out there that doesn't know, Nick Bosa is currently holding out. As of right now, at 5:09 Pacific on Tuesday evening, there's no contract in place, or at least signed. We don't know if he'll be able to play, but we have heard of TJ Watt in the situation he dealt with where he held in, didn't hold out, right? Like he actually held in. He was around, he was in the building, but just wasn't participating in certain things. And boom, right before the week 1, he ended up playing in that game and he was good to go. So I have 2 questions. One, how did y'all survive that? What was that like, especially for the fan base? And 2, was he on any kind of pitch count during that time? Jared, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so that was 2021, because they opened up that year against Buffalo, and everybody and their mother on the team was going to bat for him on the podium. Like Ben Roethlisberger was like, yeah, I took less money, so when I came back, we could pay TJ Watt. Cam Hayward was talking like, hey, let's pay TJ and get this done. So I don't think fans were ever necessarily worried that it wouldn't get done. It was just a matter of when. And
No, that was last year.
Are we sure? I'm pretty sure it was.
No, so it was last year. They paid him, but it was like 2 days before we went into Cincy, and then he tore his pec the 4th quarter against Cincy. This was last year.
I could have sworn he got the extension before Buffalo, but regardless, I don't think anybody was worried too much about like, oh man, they're going to let go TJ Watt. It's not going to end well. I think it was just a matter of, okay, when's this going to get done? Right. How much is it? How much is that money going to be? Because everybody expected it, to be the next thing. Like, okay, it's going to be, highest rated, highest paid, blah, 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 non-quarterback. And it was, and he deserves it. It was just a matter of when it would get done, not if. And, he's continued to show that he's worth every dime of that.
I think that's where the 49ers are right now, too. And if you would have asked me, really, when the schedule was released, oh, well, there'd be an issue with signing Nick Bosa. I'd be like, yeah, absolutely not. Like Nick Bosa, they'll make sure they prioritize that. And, once training camp comes around, they'll do just like they've done with other guys, whether it was Deebo Samuel or, Fred Warner, George Kittle. Those guys end up running out there right around the start of training camp, and boom, they're good to go. They're ready. They hit the field running. I thought that would be the case for Bosa. They talked about how they had money put aside for Bosa, and they had already figured that into cap situations, etc. We were either lied to or they were lied to, but somebody was lied to, because right now, with all the reports, and you hear like Adam Schefter and those guys come out, they're saying, look, they're just kind of far apart. And it might be just the small details. I had someone in my comments talk about how it's like, Croc, you got to learn more about the contracts. Like, look, I don't care about the contracts. Just get the shit done. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't care about the specifics. And I'm not saying give him whatever he wants. Like, you don't want him to handcuff the team or hold them hostage. But how is it this difficult to get this contract done with the best player on your team?
And the thing with it, too, is like what else would they be holding money for? Like the Brandon Ayuk extension, like you can replace a receiver. You can't replace a top 3 edge rusher in the game. At least not easily compared to how it would be to replace a receiver. I'm not trying to like knock Brandon Ayuk or anything. He's good, but Nick Bosa is easily the most valuable member of that team, and give him the money he wants.
Is there a possibility though that his camp wasn't as forthcoming early on what he was asking for? Because it sounds like the front office, they had planned for this contract extension. And then to hear right now going into week 1 that last week was $4 million difference per year, and now it's down to $2 million. It seems like clearly 49ers did not plan for what he was clearly asking, or him winning defensive player of the year. Maybe that kind of threw a wrench in it and he upped his price. I just don't think that there was full transparency in the beginning on what he was asking. And it looked like they cleared up some money today, right, with injury designations.
But I don't think that any like, oh, we're going to clear up a couple $1 million here or there. I don't think that has any bearing on signing Nick Bosa. I mean, that contract is so like lucrative that I don't know if any like, oh, we freed up this amount of dollars. That's going to help us sign Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Nah, they have the money, and again, it's not all due right now. I think maybe the bigger issue, and there was a tweet that I retweeted earlier today. Well, hopefully I haven't tweeted too much since then, so it kind of popped right up. But
if you want to know real quick what the TJ Watt contract was worth, so it says here September 2021, 4-year 112 is what he signed for when he signed the deal. So that's I assume Nick Bosa is going to want at least that, probably more. And look, you got
because Quinnen Williams, he just got his extension.
I mean, there's a few interior guys got their money too. That's a big reason why Chris Jones is holding out as well. So I just don't. I mean, maybe you probably know a little bit more about it, Clark. Like, what other guys do they have on the brink that they need to sign? Like, what deals that are coming up for them that they would be putting aside money for?
So I'm glad you asked that. I'm actually going to bring this up on the screen right now. And I think this kind of puts into perspective what's going on with San Francisco 49ers. See if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Pause. All right. So shout out to Dave here. And he says Christian McCaffrey's backloaded money kicks in next year. That's $28 million cap hit through 2025. And that's just for McCaffrey. And that's obviously 2 seasons combined there. Then you have Deebo Samuel's hit is $28.5 million.
Jesus.
George Kittle, $48 million over the next 2 years. Trent Williams has 4-year, $120 million remaining. Armstead has 2 years, $50 million remaining. Then you have Fred Warner, Hargrave, and Ward. They all have big deals. Then it says, can San Francisco pay Nick Bosa? It's like, well, you would assume that like that's been the priority this entire time. So it's I understand all these guys have to get paid, but some of these moves you just don't make. Whenever you make them, you know, like, okay, at some point we're gonna have to sign Nick Bosa, and we've been knowing when he signs he'll be the highest paid non-quarterback ever. Like we've known that, right? And I don't think it took the Defensive Player of the Year award to know he was gonna have to be the highest paid. Like even if it wasn't Defensive Player of the Year, you know the importance he has to this team. So if you feel like signing Hargraves or anyone else might make it tougher to sign Nick Bosa, then you probably just don't make that signing because you have to get the Bosa deal done.
Yeah.
And the Bosas are the last group of guys that you really, because I mean, when Joey came to the league, he had his infamous holdout too. So they're not afraid to miss games. They're not afraid of, sitting out until they get exactly what they want. And both of them have shown that they're worth every penny. So that is crazy how much they have tied up in like Debo's. I did not realize Debo's cap it was that big. I didn't realize Kittle was going to be making that. Is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the problem sometimes when you backload some of these contracts. All right, we're going to start getting into the game now. And we have some questions here. But before we get into those questions, I definitely want to make sure that everybody, if you aren't already, download Underdog Fantasy or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. Listen, you have like 2 days left to be able to get the season-long odds in. If you don't get them in by then, man, I don't know what you're doing. But I know I'm playing Underdog Fantasy. I'm active. Anytime there's a game on, I'm playing. Even if I'm only putting like $3 on there for 5 guys, put that all together and make you like $60. So Underdog Fantasy. But when you go, make sure you use promo code Crocky and they will double your deposit up to $100. Let's start to get to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll talk about this game a little bit, and then we'll get into the quarterback specifically and how they kind of, battle up against each other. We have a question here from my guy Gavin. He says, "Are Pickens and he meant Pickett, but are Pickett's tiny hands big enough to carry a game?"
I think you meant Pickett's tiny hands. George Pickens has fine hands.
Yeah, so this is definitely a Kenny Pickett question here.
No,
with his tiny hands with the gloves.
I mean, Kyler Murray has small hands too, and he launched he has one of the best deep balls in the game. I don't think Kenny Pickett's ever going to be, amongst like the best arms in the game, but can he be a quarterback in the tier of like, the Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr at their peaks? I think so. Can he be like Dak Prescott at his peak? Maybe. I've come around a lot on Kenny Pickett over the last year. I wasn't initially like a huge fan of the draft pick, but especially down the stretch last year, he showed a lot. So here's a fun fact for you, Croc. Weeks 14 to 18, no quarterback higher EPA per play in the fourth quarter than Kenny Pickett. So the last month of the year, he was just a savage in the fourth quarter, and 2 game-winning drives against the Raiders, the Ravens. Like I said, I wasn't initially on board with it. Do I think he's going to be a top 5 guy? No. But can he be like a top 12? Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, see, that's good context. And we're going to get to more on Kenny Pickett in just a bit when we start to kind of dive into exactly who he is. I do have a question for you, though, Melissa. All right, and that question is, what is the Pittsburgh Steelers' best kept secret? Is there someone on the defensive side of the ball, maybe a rookie? I think there's this kid. Who is it?
Herbig, Nick Herbig, the rookie.
Ooh, okay. Where's he playing at?
Yeah, he's on defense. What is he? Defensive
line? Edge rusher.
Yeah. He had quite the preseason, so it's no secret. Steelers played their starters basically all 3 weeks or whatever. And he broke out. We have this new player, Landon Roberts. He was a beast. So our best secrets by far probably our defensive line, our new players we obviously added K'Wan Alexander. And I probably will get a lot of hate for this. I'm a little concerned about our secondary still. It's a new group that's playing together. I mean, we have Levi Wallace that's returning, and we have Minka, but now we have Patrick Peterson. He isn't listed as our 1 yet. We have Joey Porter Jr. He's listed as 1. He's a rookie. And then we have KZ as our safety. And so I'm just a little worried about that. And that makes me a little worried playing against Brock Purdy, because I know we'll talk about Brock Purdy in a little while, but what Brock showed last year with his poise, his ability to read defenses, pre-snap counts, all that stuff, like he worries me a little bit with our new group, in the secondary. But I would definitely say our best kept secret has to be our D-line. We extended Alex Highsmith, but we added new players. We have this rookie. When we start getting into injuries, we are loaded.
Well, here's a best kept secret for you. It doesn't really matter who your secondary is against the 49ers, because Kyle Shanahan, I don't think he really cares to really throw outside the numbers or really attack guys vertically down the field. For the most part, what he's going to try to do is put those middle guys in conflict. So those linebackers, are they going to have good eyes? Where their eyes going to be? I know there's a rookie around there. Will he be able to get that guy to bite? Minka Fitzpatrick, understanding exactly where he's at, because the 49ers like to throw in that area. He can really burn the 49ers. That's something I'm really worried about. But as far as your outside guys, if you're worried about them maybe not having the most continuity, that's not where they're really going to be attacked. At least that's what I haven't seen from the 49ers, at least consistently. Obviously, you see a pass go there, here, and there, but really more so what the 49ers try to do is everything is off of concepts, where it's like, all right, we want to high-low this guy, or we want to run the ball, manipulate where the linebackers' eyes are. Okay, have you guys watched Suits?
No.
Okay, so it's a great show. It just hit Netflix, so everybody's rushing to watch it. I watched it and then watched the rest on Peacock. All right, but there's this guy, Harvey Specter, and he's great at what he does. All right, they're all lawyers. Well, one thing that you see like a big time theme throughout the entire 9 seasons that I watched is somebody's always like, there's some cheese. They try to throw the cheese out there and see if people take the bait. And in the 49ers offense, like, that's Christian McCaffrey. And obviously they will utilize him a lot, but they also want to utilize him to take your eyes to him and get as many eyes to him as possible. And then, okay, everybody moved here. It opened up this window here, and boom, we're going to hit Deebo Samuel in that window, or we're going to throw it backside to Deebo and have a catch and run opportunity. So for some of your younger guys that are out there, especially like at the linebacker group, And maybe Quan Alexander's coaching them up right now. Like, hey, don't you take this bait. All right, just play everything honest. Don't start guessing, because the moment you guess, that's when the 49ers do the thing that you're not really expecting to happen, and you get hit big. But it's typically in that middle of the field kind of range for the most part.
So today, Mike Tomlin had his press conference, and he focused on two guys. His biggest focus was Christian. They're game planning. They're ready for that. Like, they know. And our weakness over the years has been the middle. Like, our run game. Teams have run down our throats. And so he said, like, we are planning for him. We know what he's going to do. He said Kyle is brilliant, one of the best in the game. And so I believe they're ready for it. Like, I want to compare it to, and it's going to actually be too hard, but the Titans. We usually match up well with the Titans because we're ready for Derrick Henry. He has the fewest yards against them, but they didn't have a lot on the outside. I think they had AJ Brown. That's my worry, is Kyle is going to draw the defense somewhere, like to Christian McCaffrey, and then free up other players. So I trust Mike Tomlin, but that is a worry. It sounds like he's focused really on Christian McCaffrey.
Steelers did revamp the middle of their defense too. Like, completely new off-ball linebacker group where Devin Bush isn't there anymore. They brought over Landon Roberts from Miami. They bring in Quan Alexander, Cole Holcomb from Washington, and then Mark Robinson, who was there last year, but he's going to be mostly a special teams guy and come in if one of those guys goes down. So each of them does something a little bit better than the other two. Like, Holcomb's a little bit better in pass coverage than a Landon Roberts, but Roberts is better against the run. Quan Alexander's a little bit, kind of that Swiss Army knife where he can do a little bit of both. So having those three guys, they completely revamped that.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued on how they're going to utilize Minka, because I think that, Croc, you kind of pointed out, they're going to target the middle. Minka kind of thrives on just playing that center field role. So I'm wondering if they're going to kind of try to creep him down in the box a little bit more, because it's going to be more of the intermediate stuff that Kyle lives and dies by. And they can maybe have KZ as help on the back end, or if they want to keep Minka, kind of that center field role, they can bring in Keanu Neal as that box safety to have a little bit of extra help and coverage over the middle. So they have the guys where they can put guys in the middle. I think using Keanu Neal as kind of like a hybrid linebacker, box safety, and coverage is going to help them a lot too. So I think defensively they're going to be fine. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. What's the over-under on this? Anybody know at the top of their head? Anybody in the chat know? Whatever it is, I'm betting the under. I think you're muted, Croc.
You're muted.
You're muted, Croc.
You're muted.
My bad, y'all. I got my daughter eating chips behind me, so anytime I can mute it, I'm muting it. But the over-under is at 41.
I would take the under on that. Oh, my goodness.
You're taking the under on 41, huh? That's essentially a 21-20 game.
Yeah, there's the two of the five best defenses in the game, Croc. I feel like nobody's – and it's not like that.
But listen, what's his face is not playing. Like, let's just call Bosa. Bosa's not playing. He will not. I
don't know what the 49ers defense is going to look like without Nick Bosa, because it really kind of changes the whole dynamic of the defense. They are – the 49ers have terrific linebackers. Terrific. Yep. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, like, best tandem in the NFL. Like, that's how we feel. There are good players in the interior of that defense, but I don't know how free they're going to be moving. And obviously, like, a lot of pressure is going to be on them without having Nick Bosa out there. So you go from having Nick Bosa, Armstead, Hargraves, and what that looks like, pretty dominant D-line, to you have Armstead, you have Hargraves, but it's Drake Jackson and Cleveland Farrell that you have to count on to get pressure. And then on the back end, 49ers aren't the most athletic back end team. Like, Diamador Lenore, they're not fast. Yeah. They are playmakers. I think they are sound with their responsibilities, but I think a lot of that comes from just, hey, we know Nick Bosa is going to get there. We can kind of sit back, play our defense, and we're good. But if you don't have a pass rush there, and I'd anticipate not being much of a pass rush without Nick Bosa in there, that scares me a little bit, to be honest.
And that's a fair point to have and fair worries to have. But the Steelers only scored 30 points one time last season. So I'm not completely going to sit here and say, oh, no Nick Bosa, Kenny Pickett's going to throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns. I'm not willing to commit to that.
So, I'm more of a realist than an optimist, but last year's significantly different than this year.
Sure.
And you got to give the Steelers a little bit more credit. We revamped our own line. Look at our run game. We have Najee and then we have Jalen. Jalen is just going to eat defenses alive. He's fast as hell. And then we have Kenny Pickett has developed this connection with Pickens and has Deontay Johnson in the middle of the field with Pat. Like, I really don't like a lot of the disrespect surrounding our offense. Yeah, Matt Canada is suspect. Like, he is, in my opinion, our weak link. However, just like you even mentioned before, our 2-minute drills, when he's calling audibles, when Kenny has command of the field and that ball, he makes plays. So yeah, great. We didn't score more than 30 points last year. We also had a trash O-line. Completely trash. Najee couldn't do a whole lot. And now we're using a lot more receivers. So listen, I think it's going to be higher scoring. I think Nick Bosa not being in there is a game changer. That right there is the game changer, especially from what Croc was saying. It's just, there's a lot that they're going to have to manage, a lot, especially with the run game and the passing game, like you had mentioned. But Steelers, like I said, I'm a realist. They're going to be scoring a lot more points.
And right here you see
Hufanga not playing?
Empire. So Hufanga's been dealing with something, some kind of cyst thing going on somewhere. All right. And it wasn't something that I was like overly aware of. And then I just recently saw it and I was like, wait, well, hold on. What's going on?
That was Ward sorry, Fred Warner. Someone had it on his knee. Was it?
Yeah. Well, Hufanga's dealing with something as well.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so the 49ers kind of have some things they're working through, and I feel like like those type of things. Like, okay, he'll be out there. I mean, I am more worried about like George Kittle. Will George Kittle be out there? He's been dealing with an injury. I think they gave him like last week off, and then it's like, all right, come back Monday. Yesterday he was working out on the side of the field, wasn't necessarily practicing, and I think they had today off. So then tomorrow we'll find out more about what's going on with Hufanga and his knee, and we see right here it says Hufanga is fully cleared. So hopefully Hufanga and Kittle, those guys start to get cleared. I want to get to some of these super chats real quick. And we got the 49ers Empire says the 3 games I've been waiting for this week 1 uncertainty, or the 3 games or things. Uncertainty, need Brock 100%. 2, or he's saying week 1, need Brock 100%. Second game he's looking forward to is the Ravens on Christmas, and then the third game, the Eagles, for obvious reasons. So, yeah, those are all games. Trust me. I like that he mentioned the Ravens because I feel like the 49ers Ravens game has been getting a little bit like I won't say disrespect, but 49ers are very confident. Like, obviously the season will have to be played, but right now it's just like, oh, the Ravens, yeah, like they take care of them. I'm like, wait a minute, have the Ravens changed? I mean, they're always an extremely competitive team. They play well, and if Lamar Jackson plays his full year, I mean, he's a guy that can out of nowhere just be the MVP candidate. So that's not a game I'm overlooking at all. But I like how you mentioned it.
They have a new offensive coordinator. So, and he's got a lot more receivers to throw to. So I'm interested to see how the Ravens do on offense if Lamar can stay healthy. I'm seeing with camp right now, it's frightening. I never really take them seriously because our games are low scoring. Steelers, Ravens, like that's what we do. But I just can't ever sleep on them. You just, especially with the new offensive coordinator, I think Lamar is going to be scary.
Baltimore's weird to me though. Like all of their top contributors, like there's giant question marks around their health. Like
100%.
Odell Beckham on the wrong side of 30, his laundry list of injuries. We don't know if he's going to last the entire season. Lamar hasn't finished the last 2 seasons. Rashad Bateman is a constant question mark. I like the addition of Zay Flowers, but even on the defensive side of the ball, Marlon Humphrey's hurt. Rocky Alcin's hurt. Like they don't have anybody at corner. Kyle Hamilton's fun, but he can't, play all 3 positions back there. So I don't know. I think Baltimore could like sneakily disappoint some people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have here my guy Gammon. I think Gammon's trolling. He says Purdy should agree to a pay cut to sign Nick Bosa. Is what Tom Brady would do. I don't think.
Year 2.
Brock Purdy's making like $19 this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, 2 years.
Gammon is definitely trolling there. He's definitely trolling. All right, here we go. Let's get into it, man. I'm excited to kind of talk about this battle between Kenny Pickett, Brock Purdy, and what that potentially might look like. I would say as 49er fans and kind of getting a pulse of them, they're like, man, like this is clear cut. Brock Purdy way better than Kenny Pickett. But I want to start with you, Melissa. and just get your initial thoughts on, okay, you guys drafted Kenny Pickett. And right away, I mean, you talked about the offensive line. That wasn't great. That made it difficult for the run game to happen. You have some inconsistencies there with Deontay Johnson. And I know since then you have Pickens that has a growing role in the offense. You have added Allen Robinson. You have Calvin Austin. He's come back for the second year. But just like, what are your thoughts on going from year one, maybe what he needed? Jared talked about how he finished the season, and then I'll kind of throw the oop to transition us into this year. But just your initial thoughts on you drafted him and what you kind of saw from him last year. Were you impressed by anything, or were you like, okay, nope, I didn't care for this?
Well, I was so I've never been a Mitchell Trubisky fan, but I was for him starting. Or I was for Kenny Pickett starting. I did not like the game plan. Let's throw Mitch in for however many games until he completely ruins us. And so what happens? He played like shit, and then they put in Kenny Pickett. So Kenny Pickett didn't have a lot of reps. Sure enough, Kenny Pickett, his first throw interception. He threw the most interceptions the first couple games. So then I was louder. I was like, get this kid out of here. I'm over him. Like, we suck. Granted, we obviously have a offensive coordinator who runs high school offense, jet sweep after jet sweep. He had Kenny on a tight leash. And when Kenny made these plays or tried to force plays, that's when we didn't do too well. So I was not really on board until Kenny really showed what he could do towards the end of the season, like Christmas Eve, when he took control of the offense. But I was really pissed off with the Steelers that they used a first round pick on him. He would have fallen to the second round. We could have gotten someone else. But this season, I feel a lot better because he's developed as a quarterback. He's had the snaps. He's been named QB1 early on. And so I also think he's just been able to read a lot more with the pre-snap, and that killed him. He could not read that if he tried. And his arm strength improved. So I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. I hope that Matt Canada opens up the playbook. We saw a lot, which was great during preseason. Yeah, it's preseason, but we saw a different offense than we've seen in years. And so as long as Kenny doesn't force it and he's smart and Matt Canada doesn't completely stifle us, we're going to be fine. But I was not on board with the pick last year. I was pissed. I was absolutely pissed. And I don't think he got the development he needed when he was just thrown in the middle of the game, basically.
Jerry, you talked about how he finished, and you talked about some game-winning drives there and really finishing strong. You said, one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks down the stretch there. Going from how he started, do you think he was taking the necessary steps to, kind of becoming the guy? And then we can kind of transition into this training camp where all I'm hearing are these like glowing remarks on what Kenny Pickett is looking like out there. And then you get to see him. And I read off the numbers before we started here. Let me go back to them and then I'll get your take on this, but it's pretty impressive. And I know some people are going to say, oh, it's preseason. I actually saw a comment already in the chat that said, oh, the Steelers won the preseason bowl. All right. But you have to start somewhere, and I think kind of starting to build that continuity for your young quarterback with the weapons and coordinator. I think that's good stuff. So here are some facts from Kenny Pickett, and then we'll get into your thoughts on it, Jared. But visual proof of how excellent Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett was during the preseason. All right, first in yards per attempt, first in first down percentage, a perfect 158.3 passer rating, second in completion percentage, 0 turnovers, and multiple touchdowns. He certainly looks the part. And this was a guy who, during that time, 5 drives in the preseason, 5 touchdowns. Yep. So, Jared, how confident are you in Kenny Pickett entering year 2?
I'm a hell of a lot more confident than I was last year. Because I was in the same boat. I thought, oh my goodness, they're drafting the kid from Pitt. They're drafting the story over the quarterback. Like yep. It irritated me a lot. But being in camp for a little bit and just seeing the night and day difference compared, from this year compared to last year. He looks stronger. First of all, he put on a little bit of weight. He looks more poised in the pocket. That was another thing about Kenny last year. Like anytime he sensed any hint of pressure, he was running out of the pocket. He got happy feet. He stayed more patient in the pocket, both in camp and the preseason. He kept his eyes downfield. The Bills game in the preseason was just really impressive throughout his two drives. It was a third down. And he had just tried to throw to Allen Robinson, who was coming on a crosser, and it got broken up. And he came right back to Allen Robinson, who ran a little bit a dig into the soft spot in the zone. And he stepped up in the pocket, kept his eyes downfield, ran to the right, hit a dot, 6-yard gain for a first down. It's just little things like that are just so much better. And then the touchdown pass to Pat Freiermuth, like Matt Milano had his back to the line of scrimmage. And as soon as Kenny saw that, he threw it to Freiermuth's back shoulder, knowing that Milano wasn't going to be able to make a play on it unless he interfered with him. And that was, resulted in a touchdown. So, like I said earlier, I don't think he's going to be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need to be. If he is the 12th best quarterback, 12th to 15th best quarterback in the league, and everybody else lives up to their potential, the Steelers are a playoff team. And everything that I've seen, both in camp and in the preseason, all of that adds up that I think that he is going to be that. But yeah, in camp, man, he looked so much better. It was night and day. And I think a lot of that was because he knew he was the guy. There wasn't any sort of quarterback controversy. He just looks so much better. So I have a lot of optimism about what he can be in year 2.
So my co-host on Locked On 49ers, named Brian Peacock, he does a show with Matt Williamson. I know Matt Williamson, he's a Steelers guy. Yeah. He said that he would take Kenny Pickett with the 49ers weapons over Brock Purdy.
Absolutely.
So you don't. Oh, okay. So hold on. So Melissa made a face to that. So Melissa, are you higher on Brock Purdy than Kenny Pickett?
So I watched every single game last year, 49ers game. And if the Steelers were playing at the same time, I made sure I went and watched it again. I was sold on Brock Purdy game 1 when he was thrown in there because he has football quarterback IQ. He is poised. He doesn't force it. There is just something about him. He doesn't scramble. When he's nervous, he just makes the plays. I think he can read a defense better than most quarterbacks that are playing. Like you see Justin Fields, he struggled. A lot of these young quarterbacks struggle to read a defense. He can read that very well. And so I don't want to say that last year's a fluke with Brock Purdy. I believe in Brock Purdy. I do. I have to see more with Kenny Pickett. I do. I just, because like I said, Kenny Pickett's IQ wasn't there in my personal opinion last year. Like Jared was saying, he forced a lot of things. He ran for his life. He was very impatient. And so because of that, I would prefer sometimes to have Brock Purdy with our offense. But we still have to see how Kenny does this season. I loved what I saw. I loved what I saw with Brock.
So Greg Cosell said that Pickett was the best quarterback in that draft. What are your thoughts when you see that, Jared? What are you thinking about that? Because that's like, hey, I watched, and we know Greg Cosell. I'm not saying everything he says is Bible, but he's kind of the godfather of film. Sure. And he's saying, look, I watched Purdy, and I know he watched Purdy because he comes on KNBR, the 49ers flagship radio station, and talks about him. I know he watched him. If he's saying Kenny Pickett was the best quarterback in that class, is that something that you're agreeing with?
I think Sam Howell has a chance to kind of prove a lot of people wrong this year. I'm a big Sam Howell guy in Washington. But, I mean, like you said, if Greg Cosell is saying it, then it does mean something. Yeah. I mean, like I gave my feelings on Pickett coming out. I wasn't ginormous on him. He played in school for a long time, only had one really good year and a down year and a really bad conference. So I wasn't huge on him in school. But in terms of, excuse me, in terms of like the whole like Brock versus Kenny thing, like if you would have taken Kenny last year and put him in the 49ers offense, they get to the Super Bowl and they beat the Eagles if he stays healthy. Like assuming that that's the case. And if you take Brock Purdy and give him Matt Canada, I promise he's not doing what Kenny Pickett did last year. And I know the numbers weren't eye-popping for Kenny Pickett, 10 total touchdowns, 9 picks. I will say this, though. If you go back and watch Kenny's first actual game action against the Jets when he came in, he threw 3 interceptions. All 3 of them were not his fault. All 3 of them were catchable balls that Chase Claypool dropped one, Pat Freiermuth dropped another one. I cannot remember who the other one was intended for, but
I think it was Claypool downfield where he kind of like gave up on the ball or something like that and intercepted. I remember
that was his first career throw, and it was on a 3rd down. He said, "Fuck it, might as well see what happens." And so I think the numbers are a little bit deceiving there. But yeah, I absolutely think that, and it's not trying to bash Brock or anything, but I think there's a lot to say, or a lot to the fact that, okay, he's got the best play caller and play designer of the last decade as his head coach, telling him everything that he needs to know and putting him in the perfect situation with basically the NFC Pro Bowl offense at his disposal. That's a hell of a lot more than Kenny Pickett had. And I think we're going to see who the better quarterback is sooner than later.
Yeah. We have a question here from Gammon. He says, Jarrett, what are the chances that either of these quarterbacks turn into a pumpkin versus taking the next step? And essentially what he's saying is, you know, we've seen some ups and downs from both these guys, really actually not many downs from Brock Purdy, to be honest. All right. But do you think that Brock Purdy continues on his trajectory that he's on, which is down near stardom? All right. Or maybe he kind of comes back down to earth. Some of his interceptable passes get picked off. That changes kind of the trajectory of some of those games that 49ers eventually won. You know, he had a great defense. Did the 49ers still have the number one defense while he started? They also had the most takeaways in the games, you know, setting up short field positions while he started. If that comes back down to earth, do you think we see a different version of Purdy? And we could say kind of the same for, I guess, Pickett, where he actually started off as a pumpkin and then started to get better. So I guess this question might be more so about Brock Purdy. Do you see Purdy maybe coming down to earth just a little bit?
It's almost certain he will come back down to earth. And again, that's not saying that he's going to be god awful. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but to continue on this, you know, trajectory that he was on, like it's almost certain he's going to plateau a little bit. And, you know, I think that his ceiling is a more active in terms of like running around. Like, I think he can be like Jimmy Garoppolo off platform, just better at doing that stuff. And I mean, the 49ers got to a Super Bowl with that. And if Brock Purdy can be a little bit more athletic version of that, then great. But I think that Pickett will continue to get better. I think Brock will plateau a little bit.
He was, like we said, he was pretty damn good last year. So I guess really quick though, I have a question for you, Eric, is I'm seeing a lot of the stuff from camp. He's throwing 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions. Like, what is that? Is that just because it's been a cycle of quarterbacks through training camp and he's just not getting consistent reps? Is it still the elbow? Are things getting in his head because it's been an absolute circus? Like, that's also my concern.
Yeah, no, he actually, anytime he was practicing, he got 100% the number one reps.
Okay.
At quarterback. So if you looked at the amount of reps that he was getting after the practice, you know, you have guys like Matt Mako, Matt Barrows, and they, you know, have like a tally with how many, you know, first team reps these guys got, or not even just first team reps, just reps in general. It was by far more than anyone else. Just his overall reps, way more than anyone else. And then his reps with the ones, clearly he took all of those snaps. As far as the interceptions go,
because he had like
you hear different things
from
different people, right? To maybe either be upset about it or you hear other guys try to justify it. I think for me, I would ideally like him to be a little cleaner than what he was. And my reasoning for that was I didn't think he played necessarily clean in the games last year. So a big thing for me was not having the interceptable passes, right? And the 49ers got away with some of them last year that were just dropped. And I thought that, like, man, like, that's cool. Okay, 49ers win, great. Going into the offseason, you know, it's all right. Can he just get a little bit better with not putting the ball in harm's way? And then you just hear all these reports of putting the ball in harm's way, So we are just talking about practice. He could potentially just be trying to work on something. Hey, can I fit the ball here? Can I fit the ball there? There were some things that I watched in practice that worried me, but only to the extent of maybe that's just not a strength of his. Mm-hmm. So like throwing the ball down the field. I mean, he underthrew several goal balls. I mean, I went to a bunch of practices and I would say I watched him underthrow about 4 or 5 go routes, like severely underthrow. Mm-hmm. But the 49ers offense doesn't have to be predicated on throwing the go route. So what does he do well? when things are in front of him, really reading extremely well. Melissa, you talked about it, like how well he gets the ball, out of his hands. He can read a defense pre-snap, post-snap. I think he understands where to go with the ball in that kind of like that 5 to 10 yard range. I think when he has those 10 to 20 yard crossers that Kyle Shanahan's going to dial up, like he's going to hit those and be very consistent. Matter of fact, he was the best ever at it in his stretch of games that he played last year. So there are definitely like some strengths that I'm not worried about. Again, the things that I am really, and it's not even just the go route, because you'll hear 49er, he doesn't have a big arm, look, the go ball doesn't have to be part of their offense. Like, they're not the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pittsburgh Steelers traditionally, with Ben Roethlisberger and some of those guys, like, they're going to take shots. I watched the Steelers in the preseason game, that last one. Kenny Pickett, he took shots. I saw the go ball to Deontay Johnson. I said, goddamn, that's probably Diamador Lenore over there. I'm a little worried about that. Then I saw the go ball to George Pickens, and he dunked on the DB, and I'm like, damn it, that's probably Travarius Ward. All right, but regardless of all that, that's not the 49ers offense. They're going to work underneath, and I think that he sees the field well there. Can you trick him? And I think that's just bound to happen because he's still very young and youthful in his experience at the NFL level. Can he keep the ball out of harm's way while going through that process? That's what I would like to see, and I don't know. And I know that's kind of a long way. You asked me, Melissa, you asked me about, am I worried about the interceptions in practice? I guess, yeah, it's a long way of me saying, yes, I am worried about it because I saw that kind of trending that way in the games.
Yeah.
Got a little lucky, starting to pop up in practice. Will it be something that we see happen week one when McKivitz is protecting you and you got goddamn TJ Watt rushing off that edge, and now everything's a little bit more sped up?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a shootout, actually, the more we talk about this.
Jared says no. Jared says take the under on 41.
I know it's going to be over. I mean, I think it's going to be over 41, but I think two different offenses, two different styles of offense. So I'm just interested to see how everyone does, because your defense is still loaded, minus Bosa. I don't know. I think it's just going to be back and forth, lots of points. Christian McCaffrey, I'm worried, is going to just run down our throats at some point, but we'll see. He scares me.
I have a couple comments from Green Glass Full, and I'd actually like to kind of respond to these. But he says, and he's talking about Brock, says he has nothing in common with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they actually have a very lot in common. I think the way that they win, in the sense of like the areas they want to throw the ball to, are very similar. I think when you look at his scouting report with him coming out of college, they highlighted, hey, if he goes to an offense that allows him to, use play action and get the ball out and timing and rhythm, he can be good in that type of offense. I think that's what he's in with the 49ers. I think that helped Jimmy Garoppolo as well. I think the thing that makes them not the same is Brock Purdy moves better. He moves better, and he can create a play outside of structure, and that wasn't necessarily a big strength of Jimmy Garoppolo. But outside of that, in the sense of where they, excel throwing the ball and how they're going to win on a play-to-play basis, it actually is more similar than I think 49er fans would like to admit.
I did think, I don't mean to hurt 49ers fans' feelings, but I will never forget that ball Jimmy threw to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. That was uncharacteristic, and that was just trash. And I could not believe that. And so sometimes
why'd you have to bring that up?
I know, but I'm saying but that's the thing is, either that was a Kyle Shanahan issue or that was Jimmy G uncharacteristic. Because in my opinion, that was just terrible. That game would have been over. Yeah. And that was just terrible. So I just don't give Jimmy a lot of credit. I don't.
You say that game would have been over, and I think most people feel like the 49ers were that throw away from winning. But the very next year, I watched Patrick Mahomes get down the field with 13 seconds. So there was much more than 13 seconds on the clock when that throw happened. So that game wasn't even close to being over. And Mahomes, he's special. I've talked about him.
Yeah.
He's the best quarterback I've ever seen. Now, greatest quarterback, we'll see that. Like, you'll find that out over time. He's going to have to win more championships. Yeah. But just in the sense of what he does, like from play out, like I can't think of another quarterback I would just be like, yeah, give me this guy over Mahomes for a game. I mean, he's a scary guy. So yeah, I think there was like damn near 2 minutes left on the clock when that Sanders throw happened. That's more than enough time for Mahomes. So I don't know how that game would have ended.
Oh, Sanders is one of my favorite players of all time. So that broke my heart, that game.
Yeah.
I just love that.
I forget it. Emmanuel Sanders, Pittsburgh Steelers legend.
Began
Team Young Money. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna end with this. I'm gonna get y'all predictions of this game. If you give predictions, all right. So again, we'll start. We got ladies first. I saw Melissa just kind of murmur something under her breath. How do you see this game playing out? Do you have a final? You don't have to have a score prediction, or you could say, "Hey, man, I think this team wins by this much or that much." But how do you see this game playing out?
I really hate saying this, but I believe it wholeheartedly. Steelers win this. And I'm not just being biased. Steelers win this, and I feel like it's going to be like, I don't know, within a touchdown. Also, your kicker situation's real suspect. And so, I mean, that's frightening. So I definitely think it's at least, or at most, maybe by 10 points, 7 or 10 points, Steelers win. Bosa's not going to be there. Let's just say it. He's not going to be there. And
if Bosa is there, does that worry you a little bit?
Yeah, if Bosa's there, it's by a score. So 3 or 7. But Bosa not being there, it's by 10 or more. And it's
my brother keeps talking about some song that the Steelers play like before the game or
Renegade.
Something.
Renegade. It's when we're on defense and we got to make a stop.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that. All right, so Melissa has Steelers winning this game by a score or more, depending on if Nick Bosa is playing or not. If he's playing, it's going to be a little tighter, but you think the kicker situation is suspect, so it might not matter if it's tighter because, I mean, and to be honest, I don't know who the hell is going to be kicking Sunday. And even if it is a rookie who's been hurt, he missed multiple kicks in the.
You'll be there, Croc. You can kick.
I can't, and I have my Crocs on right now that I kick with. So
who drafted kicker 3rd round?
I know, it was wild. Jared, how's this game going to play out?
Oh, there we go. Steelers will win if I'm predicting it. I'll say, let's see, they're what, 2.5 point dogs. I'll have the win outright. I said under 41. So I will say somewhere in the range of like 21-17. Feels about right.
I definitely see 17 in the score.
Now, y'all do know, and again, it's me playing devil's advocate. And I like when I have people from the other side, all right? And Jared, Melissa, you guys have been awesome. Brock Purdy averaged like 33 points a game in his starts last year. So, like, projecting that he's only going to score 17. And I get it. I mean, your defense is revamped. They're going to be ready to go. I am scared as hell of TJ Watt. But to predict, now you can say the 49ers lose, but you saying they're only going to score 17. I don't want to get too arrogant with that because I remember when was it 2007, I want to say, and the New England Patriots, they were undefeated and they had like this crazy offense with Randy Moss. And I remember Tom Brady up there. I want to say maybe it was like Strahan had said something in the media like, oh yeah, they're only going to score 14 points or something. And the media brought that up to Tom Brady. They were like, hey, you know, Strahan or whoever it was, Justin Tuck, whoever, OC is one of those guys, said that you're only going to score 17 points. And I remember Tom Brady was like, 17? Okay. Like he kind of like scoffed at it. So I'm not going to scoff at you predicting 17 points, but I will say a Purdy-led offense did average like 33 points a game.
Yes.
Bro, he ain't scoring 33 points every goddamn game. It'll come down to earth again eventually.
He's not going to score 30-something this game, but 20s. I think the lowest is going to be either 17 or 21. I see 21. I see 27. I see those. I don't know. I'm going to give Brock a lot more credit. Just what we saw last year. But I think it's going to be a lot higher. It's going to be over 41.
Over under half an interception for Brock Purdy, Eric Crocker.
I'm taking the over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also taking the over on Kenny Pickett on the pick as well. So
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minka is going to get an interception. If there's an accuracy issue with Brock, he's going to pick that off.
Yeah. And Brock I don't think he's inaccurate. I think sometimes he just doesn't understand truly like some of his limitations throwing the ball. And maybe he's trying to figure that out.
Mhm.
But I think he might try to put the ball in some areas where it's like you probably shouldn't be trying to make this throw. And that's when Minka maybe could get him.
Last 5 games of the season, if I'm not mistaken, Kenny Pickett only threw 1 interception compared to his first 4 throwing 6. So just keep that in mind.
All right, here we go. We got Gammon in the chat. He says, let's put an end to all the cupcaking and hand holding. Every person on the panel rank Purdy and Pickett from 1 to 32 standard. I'm not ranking him from 1 to 32 because I don't know. Like I feel
Don't
like
worry, I will.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Where you got him?
So actually,
I think there was a report that came out that someone, and I don't know exactly who it was, but they had him the number 32 out of all the starters.
Brock
yeah,
Purdy?
I'm not that low on him. So I do weekly
Yeah.
quarterback rankings for Behind the Steel Curtain on SB Nation, and I started that actually today. In the inaugural rankings, I have him 22.
22. Okay.
Yep.
And
I'm
could be
gonna say
in that range.
I think Sam Howell is gonna be higher. There's just something about, I don't know, I want to see what Eric Bieniemy does, but I think Sam Howell is going to be rated higher throughout this season than what people think.
All right, so here's a question, because you guys just ranked the 49ers quarterback. Where's Kenny Pickett in those rankings, Jared?
I have him at 19.
I have him, between 17 and 19.
All right, well, so okay, not just a few, and that could be flip-flop based off of, hey man, how these guys start. And Jared, you're going to be doing that for what, SB Nation? You said every week.
So that'll be every week.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Where do
Again,
you have?
I
Where
don't
do you
know.
have Brock Purdy? Where you have? Just give us something. Where's Brock?
He's 22. Kenny's 19 as of right now. I would take Kenny over Brock right now.
I would say I like that. I wouldn't say like, oh, you're wrong for that. That's
the thing too. Like if somebody were to say, oh, I would take Brock over Kenny, I wouldn't argue too much either. Just because of what we
if
saw
someone
last
hadn't
year.
flipped,
Absolutely,
if someone had that
yep.
flipped, and you had Purdy at 19 and Pickett at 22,
I wouldn't argue with that too much at all.
I can see that
Yep.
as well. I can see that.
But Eric, where do you put Brock?
I'd have to really look at a list. I feel like.
Stop it! No.
Like here, let me give you like a Brock or this guy, Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones.
Brock.
Okay, here's the tough thing with any quarterback that you name. It's hard for me. I have to envision them in the 49ers offense. Like that really changes a lot. And I would have to envision Brock Purdy in someone else's offense. And what does that look like? Like, I don't know if I want to know what Purdy would look like and what the Giants have traditionally been over the last few years. Right.
Just trash.
Sure.
Right now, Daniel Jones last year, you saw him take a huge step forward. And maybe it was just as simple as, hey, we got this new coordinator.
Like a huge step forward is a large overreaction for what Daniel Jones was
Correct.
last year.
He never should have gone.
He took a step forward.
A step forward, yeah.
Oh, he was terrible. Like he was bad.
Yeah, he had open
yeah.
fields and he fell down going into the end zone. He's just
I agree.
He's a disaster.
I'm not
He
a
ran
big
for like
believer in Daniel
800
Jones.
yards.
That's why I say it.
Yeah.
He ran for like 700 yards or something like that last year. Like, so he's athletic, but I do see the ability. I see, he can make the throws and stuff like that. I feel like they did a really good job of resetting his, like the ghost that he was seeing. Typically, when you are playing for a poor organization, like a team that's doing bad, right? And you don't have weapons and it's all on you and Saquon's hurt. And it's just like every week I'm going out there. You create so many bad habits. And we saw this with Sam Darnold. It's easy now. Oh, Sam Darnold, he's a bust, blah, blah, or any quarterback, right? But their circumstances matter.
Absolutely.
And Daniel Jones, the circumstances were terrible. And then last year, you saw them they put some pieces around them. He got a new head coach / coordinator and Brian Daboll, who was like, hey, we're going to do these things. We're going to put you in a better situation. Then they added more and they look better in the preseason. If you're telling me, hey, you can take Daniel Jones and plug him in, like this version of him, into the 49ers offense, it's hard because I've seen Purdy in the 49ers offense, but I might take Daniel Jones over him in the 49ers offense.
Yeah, that's fair.
What are you doing?
Really?
Melissa's like, what? Like, yeah, I mean,
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I mean, I know he's had to be mobile for them. He's had to do a lot, but
he's had to do everything. He had number one defense in the NFL. He had to do everything just to try to stay afloat.
But I would
then he
rather
won a playoff game. Like, and then not saying it was all on him, but like to beat a really good Minnesota Vikings team, like that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
I would rather plug, and this is actually a really bad example, but I would rather plug Mac Jones into the 49ers offense than Daniel Jones.
See, well, I'm actually taking Brock Purdy over Mac Jones.
I agree.
Never. Yeah. I'm just talking about Daniel Jones. I wouldn't want to put him in your offense. Like you had to put someone else. I would put like someone like Mac Jones, who we didn't see a lot from, in instead of Daniel Jones. You got to keep Brock Purdy, and I don't know.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
It's tough because I always just look at like, man, I can only imagine this guy in the 49ers offense. Like that's the one thing I think. And I see like the way that Brock Purdy super functional in the offense. He did a really good job of just being able, seize the field well, move the sticks, but we are still leaving some meat on the bones. Like we're leaving some meat on the bones. So, and that's not anything like he's solid. Obviously, I'm thinking like in a perfect world, like, can I have this type of quarterback? Like, of course, you'd be like, yeah, I would like that. But like, oh, well, it's not perfect world. You have Brock Purdy. How do you like him in offense? He's terrific.
Can I ask you a really quick question? I know you have to go, but would you want Tua in your offense? Because there's a lot of people that are pro Tua and still don't take him seriously. Do you think that he's earned to be taken seriously?
I would. Well, okay, again, if we're going to ask who I would rather have in my offense, I'll probably take Brock Purdy over Tua.
Okay, there you go. Okay, because a lot of people are Tua's going to be top 5. Their team is going to be top 5. I still don't see it. And so that's why I was wondering, who would you really take? Would you take Tua over Brock?
Yeah.
I'm still
no. I'm taking Brock. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think Chargers are going to beat Miami then on Sunday? One game I can't decide.
I really like Mike McDaniel as a head coach. But if everybody's healthy, because remember, I mean, the thing that the Chargers deal with the most, their defensive guys are just hurt. Their receivers are just hurt. So if you're going into that game and you're telling me that Keenan Allen, he's going to be there. He's good. Williams, he's good. Eckler, he's good to go. They got the second year or rookie out of TCU, receiver, like he's good to go. And then Bosa, good to go. Derwin James, good to go. Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers.
That's what I was thinking. There's just a lot of
they beat them last year with a lot of their backups in too. So,
all right, we got Niner Gang Tay here. He says, all I got to say is CMC, Debo, and Ayuk. Let's go. We got Steve here. Says 28-12 Niners. I'm not gonna lie. Again, I could. First of all, that matches the under that Jared predicted.
Sure does.
But if it played out that way and Nick Bosa's out there, I could see that happening. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a world where that definitely could happen.
Yeah, Bosa's not going to be in. Can you just listen? They're going to pay him the highest amount for a non-QB in the history of the league. They're not going to put him in. They'll have limited counts, not limited. And so even with limited, that's still not going to help him. Like, come on. They're not going to put him in if they're going to make him the highest paid non-QB. There's no way. He has not practiced since January.
He's probably telling them, hey, I'm ready to go.
No.
TJ Watt came in on 2 days' notice and got 2 sacks against the Bills. I'm not worried about.
And then he tore his pec. That day.
It was the next year because he came. Did look it up. It was the 2021. I looked it up. He got the extension in 2021.
All right, here we go. We got Keith Murphy, the unbeaten here. He says 13 seconds was 2022. Had to fact check you. I think that's what I said. I said the next year. So 2000. Oh yeah.
No, it's the 2021 season, but the 2022 AFC title.
What?
Or AFC.
Okay, that still is over because I was thinking 2019 was Super Bowl year, and then the game was played in 2020.
Yeah,
and it was
the playoff game was played in 2022, but it was the 2021 season.
Gotcha.
What are we talking about? What game?
Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Oh, that was that one where they scored within like 25 seconds.
Yeah, 13 seconds. That's what I was talking about. Like they're just.
That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, it definitely was for me. But that was an amazing game. All right, here we go. And then the last one, we got Gammon Brown. He says, whose weapons are better, Brock or Pickett? If they swap weapons, who is the better quarterback? So essentially he's saying Would the Steelers be better off if I said, all right, you guys can have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and we'll take some combination of Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. First, okay, I'm not even going to read it all off.
Sure.
Kyle would not like George Pickens because he doesn't create a lot of separation, and you have to just like count on him just making an amazing catch at the catch point, which he does. But the Steelers don't care if there's separation or not. They're going to try. They're going to throw him the ball downfield. I think Kyle would like Deontay Johnson a lot. I think he'd like Freiermuth a lot as well.
Deontay is the best receiver on the roster when it comes to just creating space, natural separator, really good route runner. George Pickens isn't a very great route runner, but he'll turn a 50-50 ball into a 70-30 ball, and that's what he's there for. So I get it.
Really quick, because I want to make sure that this is made known. TJ Watt got his extension September 9th, 2022, and he got injured September 11th, 2022.
The extension kicked in 2022. They agreed to it the year prior. He was still on his rookie deal.
He didn't practice that whole offseason, and then he signed 2 days before week 1, and then he tore it that day. So that's what I'm saying is that's why I'm a little worried. Throwing someone here who hasn't had drills because you could get injured, and he did.
Jared's looking it up now, too.
No, he got the extension 2021. It didn't go into effect until 2022.
I'm reading it. I'm reading it word for word. He got it signed on the 9th, 2022, and then he played September 11th, 2022.
In September 2021, TJ Watt became the highest paid defensive player in the history of the league by signing a 4-year extension.
Yeah, you're reading when the article is
$112 million.
You were reading when
and
the article.
He won the honor of the NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2021. The hefty contract was justified as it showed the Steelers wanted to keep Watt in the franchise for longer.
Eric, look it up. No, that was in the article. No.
All right, hold on. Keith Murphy says really good Vikings team is a stretch, Crocker. I thought the Vikings didn't they win like 13 games last year?
Yeah, but I mean, it was 11 one-score games, man. They're not going to win 11 one-score games.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I see 13 wins. It's hard to win in the NFL. You got like 13 wins. To me, that's a pretty good season.
The Lions.
I like the addition of Brian Flores as defensive coordinator. I think that's going to be a really good thing for them. It's going to be a big change in philosophy for them, too, from Ed Donatel being very conservative. I think Brian Flores is going to have a lot more aggressiveness, so that'll be fun.
All right, here we go. We got Steve. He says D-line rotates Bosa or not. B.A. and Deebo will be the focus. Christian McCaffrey and Mitchell, more decoy roles, but have big runs and check down passes. And I think Mitchell, we haven't talked about him, but Mitchell is he's
Eli, right?
Yeah.
He just needs to stay healthy. He needs to stay healthy. You have another run. Oh no, that's the Chargers. Never mind. I was like, there's another running back. Yeah, if Eli stays healthy, that helps. He's a good player.
Gammon says we aren't done until the chat says we're done. We are done. All right, man. But anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in. Melissa, Jared, man, I really appreciate y'all coming on. I actually have another Steelers person coming on for tomorrow's show, and we're talking specifically receivers with my guy Jasper Rose, my guy Josh Harper. We're diving into the receivers, the pass catchers on both of these teams. But that's going to do it for this episode. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe this video. But until next time, I'm out. Peace.
Thanks.